Alright, we're going to jump on right now, friends. Give it a second. Alright, we're sending data. We're going to get the show going. Just adjust my hat. It's a little loose. There you go, friends. Alright, friends. We're going to get this show going, everybody. Welcome, everybody. Nice, bright, happy Sunday morning. It's a nice Sunday morning. It's like 8:30 here in Los Angeles, everybody. So we're going to be doing a build. So this is actually going to be a personal build. So I actually built this board on stream a few weeks ago, but I had to tear it apart, and I'll kind of explain to you all what the heck happened with this particular board. So I'll kind of pull them out. So let me show you the case really quick and kind of go over parts, and I'll kind of show you why we're making the changes to this board that we are. All right, so the board we're doing is really cool. It's a Geon Works board, but this is a kind of a crazy and kind of special board that we're going to do. So let me put that piece of foam to the side. We're not using that until later. So this is the Geon Works Frog Mini Pesante. This board is absolutely crazy. This thing weighs almost 10 pounds. It's made of solid brass. And to add insult to injury on this board, it has a stainless steel weight on the bottom, as if this thing didn't need to be even more heavy. So this is a really interesting case. As soon as I love the Frog line by Geon, I own the Frog Mini, the Frog Mini Ligera, I own the Frog TKL, I own the Frog 8K TKL. I've done a ton of commissions in Frog Minis, in Frog TKL, so I absolutely love the Frog line from Geon. I think it's a great lineup, and it's awesome. I love it. So when I saw they did an all-brass version, I didn't buy it initially, and then I just kind of thought about it. I actually went to my Cerakote guy to drop off a client commission that I'm actually going to probably pick up tomorrow, and someone had dropped off a Frog Mini Pesante in the shop to get Cerakote, and I saw it, and I'm like, okay, that's freaking awesome. I want one. So really, really cool board. So I picked one up. I got a B-stock version, but Geon's quality is so high. Heck, even his B-stock models are like really, really good. So it's a really, really cool board. I love this thing. So it's really cool. I think I might get the Cerakoted eventually. We'll just kind of see. But this is just kind of the brass with like a clear coat on it. So looks really, really good. This thing is absurdly heavy. I'll put it to put it into perspective. This little tray mount 60 weighs almost as much as this chunker. Like my class 0413 by Studio. It weighs almost as much as this damn thing. Like that's how freaking heavy this little brass build is. So, and the Studio class 0413 weighs like 10 freaking pounds, and that's built. So this thing is insane. But I'll kind of explain what the heck happened. So originally on stream, I built this board with yellow Alps. These are yellow linear Alps. Really good switch, but I ran into an issue with these particular switches. So with these particular Alps, the sliders, so that's the colored part. The slider wasn't gripping the keycaps. And one thing about Alps, I'm just going to grab a keycap really quick. The fitment of the keycap on the Alps switch is very, very tight. And the problem I was running into, these switches were not gripping the keycap. For example, I just put the keycap on here, and look at this. I just pull the keycap off really, really easily. Alps keycap should not be like that. When you put an Alps keycap on there, it takes a decent amount of force to push the keycap on and then to remove it. So notice how easily, I hardly did any force removing the keycap. That's not good. So I was wondering, why are my keycaps not staying on? Because when I built the board, the keycaps that I purchased on eBay, the person was on vacation, so I had to wait about 2 weeks for that board to ship. So the Pesante just kind of sat built without keycaps for like 3 weeks. And then when I finally put keycaps on it like a week and a half ago, and I'm like, this isn't right. So I looked at the sliders, and these are cracked. So in the corners of these little rectangles on the slider, they're cracked. So when I put keycaps on these yellow switches, there's no grip force of the keycaps to the switch. So I love my I love my Alps SKCL yellows. I'm going to clean up the switch plates and just kind of put them back to new state. But these need new sliders. So I will eventually do an Alps build with Alps SKCL yellow. But what I need to do is the rest of the switch is good, even my switch plates. I need to get new sliders, and that's going to be kind of a pain in the ass to track down. I really don't see any builds right now on eBay with yellow Alps. And I have a guy in South Korea who can get me new old stock yellow Alps switches, but I have to buy the whole switch, and it's a little more money than I would like to spend right now. So I will eventually do a build with these yellow Alps, but I'm just going to clean them up. I'll have these switches on display at Keep Life, but I just really can't use them in a build because they don't grip the keycaps, and that's a problem for me. So now the alternative I had some other switches I got in from Careless that I cleaned up and restored. These switches were actually really clean. I actually didn't have to do any like ultrasonic cleaning of these switches. I just like wiped any little dust off of them, and I cleaned up the pins in the bottom. So these switches are really special. So these are another linear Alps switch. These are called Alps SKCL Creams. So these are actually much rare. These are probably one of the rarer of the linear Alps. These are actually produced later in Alps' production run, probably like late 80s, early 90s. But these are a really good switch. These came out of actually a laptop called a Bondwell Pro 8T. And these are really, really nice switches. They have about a 70-gram spring weight. So they're a little bit heavier than the yellows. And they're really nice. These things were really clean. I didn't really have to do much cleaning at all. I just cleaned up the pins with a file and straightened them out. But I didn't have to do any type of cleaning. Careless told me, like, don't do any like ultrasonic cleaning of these switches. They're really clean. So I followed Careless's instructions. I just cleaned up the pins and straightened them out. So these are the switches we're going to use. I have about 84 of these, so we're only going to use about 60 of them. But these are really nice switches. I was really going to hold on to these and save these for like a TKL later on, but I realized I'm just going to swap them. I'll put these in the Pesante, and then I'll put my yellow Alps in a TKL that I'm planning to get later in the year. At a later date once I get my yellow Alps situation figured out. So these are really nice switches. And I'm really excited to use these. Carol's basically told me it was really rare to find a set of these in the laptop that are very clean. So I'm really excited to use these switches. Also for keycaps, we're using keycaps from an FK 2001. The keycaps actually are on one of my boards already. This is probably so this is what the keycap set's going to look like. I did a couple of client commissions. So Epic Fax Keeps' board that I built for him, that's going to be at Keep Life, used this keycap set. And my client in Singapore, I used the FK 2001 keycap set. I personally, it's probably one of my favorite Alps keycap, like classic Alps keycap sets. You can get the board for like anywhere from like $75 to $100, and the keycaps clean up really nice, and it's really cool. The modifiers have these really cool colors. Like the shifts have green text, the controls have red text, and the alts have blue text, and of course that sexy big ass enter is on it. So really, really nice keycap set. So I am going to put this set on here. This set on this FK 2001 on my Hex 3C V2. This is temporary. Eventually I want to track down an HP Vectra CS keycap set for this because those have red legends on the entire keycap set. And I think that set would just go so great with the red anodization on this Hex 3C V2. But this board for sure is going to get FK 2001 keycaps, and that's going to be its forever set. This one, it's more of a temporary set because the HP Vectra set's also kind of expensive. So we'll eventually be building that set, rebuilding this board at a later date once I find an HP Vectra that's like not insane. So that's what we're going to do today. I'll put this board to the side. So this also has clicky Alps. So this has the same Alps that we built the board on stream last night, which is really nice. So, all right, friends. So let's get this going. So I'm gonna put my keycaps to the side. Kind of go over my other parts as well. So the plate we're reusing the plate from the kind of the first iteration of this. So this plate comes from Tom over at Hype Keyboards. This is just a tray mount 60% Alps plate. One thing about this that's just kind of really cool. When you're built, tray mount 60% are probably like my #1 recommendation for 60% Alps boards. Again, you have a wide variety of boards that utilize a tray mount 60. So the plate's coming from Tom over at Hype Keyboards, and then the plate was designed by Careless. Always. And then here's my PCB. I also want to explain a modification I did to the PCB. So this is my 60% Steezy PCB by Apple T from Sweden. So I had to desolder all the yellow Alps on this PCB, and then I cleaned it up. So the PCB works. I tested every socket, so we're good to go to resolder this. But on this particular board, I had to do a modification to the board. So this board, what's cool about these PCBs, you have kind of two options on how you want to connect it. So you can either use the USB-C port if your case has the H60 port for the USB-C port, or it has two JST port connections, which you can use with the unified daughter board. So we're using a daughter board on the Frog Mini Pesante. The problem was this USB-C port was interfering with the case. It actually sticked out like 2 or 3 millimeters from the edge of the PCB, and that was interfering with the case. And unfortunately, I can't know if the cameras are going to pick it up. I actually scratched the interior of my case with that USB-C port when I first inserted it. So I had to essentially file down my USB-C port. So this was a permanent modification to this PCB. So the USB-C port is now essentially useless. So there are certain 60% cases with these PCBs. You'll have to either file down the USB-C port or you'll have to desolder. I was too lazy to desolder it, and it was just easier to get my file out and file it down. So, but this is a permanent modification. This USB-C port no longer works. So the only way to utilize this PCB is with the JST connectors. So, I mean, I don't plan on using this PCB in any other build. This is mainly going to live in the Frog Mini Pesante. So that's pretty cool. So awesome. So we're going to put the Pesante case to the side because we're not really going to utilize the case until the very end. It's mostly going to be focusing on the internal assembly. So this is an Alps board. So we're going to use Alps pattern stabilizer since we're using OG Alps. So I want to lube my Alps stabilizer. So we're using original FK 2001 stabilizers for this set, and they're really great. So let me get the parts out. So let me find the parts I need specifically. So we have our spacebar wire for this build. So let me get out our right shift. Right shift, and then we need three of our 2U wires for our 2U keys. So perfect. Awesome. So we got our 5 wires. Let's get the other parts out that we're gonna need. So we're gonna need the clips that go beneath the actual keycaps. So let me grab those. I'll need 10 of those. So 6. 8, and then 2 more. Perfect. And then we're going to get our little wire clips that go into the plate, because these are plate mount stabilizers for Alps. So the build we did last night was really cool because it used DCS keycaps, so we were able to use Cherry MX stabilizers. We're going to do another build. I have one more client commission build that I got to do this week that is going to be DCS, and it's going to be kind of unique how the client wanted it built. So really excited to get that build. So let me put the rest, that's should be all my stabilizer parts. Perfect. So let me get my parts and put them away. So we're not using these for right now. But yeah, I need to definitely get more FK 2001s because I love the keycaps, and the switches are pretty good. They most FK 2001s come with white clicky switches. So I definitely love FK 2001 keycaps. Like probably my favorite of OG. Alps boards, and it's nice because the keycaps are double shot PBT, which is really nice, and the space bars are also PBT, so there's no yellowing in those. Oh, I need to get out a couple stabilizer pieces, so give me a second for the space bar. So there's a couple stabilizing posts on the space bar, so I need to get those out. I have a nice stockpile of like Alps parts on hand because I've been harvesting a lot of boards lately. So, and I also have probably a bunch of commissions that have come in. So I've had a few clients in Europe. I mentioned last night. One of them I was talking till like very late last night. So let me just make sure this is the right posts. And yeah, okay, cool. We got all of our parts. Perfect. Let me just put my stabilizers away. Perfect. Awesome. So got that, and that's pretty much all of our stabilizer parts we need. Let me get my 205G0 out. My little brush, and we'll start doing some stuff. Let me get my spudger out because I got to put our clips in first. So let me get that out, and then we'll kind of go from there. Perfect. So let's put our wire clips in first, and then we'll get this board going. So let's put our clips. Perfect. So this is a good little board. I'm really excited to get this build. This is like one of the builds people have been asking about. Like, how does the brass sound? Like, how heavy is it? So I'm really excited to get this board. built, and this is one that's going to be fun at Cube Life. I will probably put a sign. If you're going to Cube Life, I will probably put a sign next to this particular build just saying, FY, it's freaking heavy. So, like, because I don't want someone to pick it up and realize, oh, it's heavy, and they drop the damn thing. So, definitely want to make sure that people know, like, yo, this thing is, like, ridiculously heavy. So, be careful. So, but yeah, this should be a relatively simple build. Shouldn't take... Last night's stream was just pretty long, because also we were just kind of talking about stuff and taking our time with that build. I wasn't really in a rush. So we were on for almost 3 hours last night. So the VOD for last night's stream for that frog TKL is on my YouTube channel. So if you're interested in watching the VOD, go for it, folks. Again, the links are going to be up there, friends. So you can see them on my screen. It's my overlay. So again, I keep my Twitch overlay pretty simple. I mean, we have all of our Twitch chat in the bottom corner. If people want to comment, but again, I don't do anything fancy. I want the focus to be the build we're doing, and kind of for people to see like what the heck I'm doing. So that's the fun part. So cool stuff. So, but yeah, that's really cool. And then this one. Come on. And then there we go. All right, cool. There we go. So we got our clips in. So that's really good. And then we're also going to put these stabilizing posts. So this is just another method that stabilizes the spacebar, so it's not wobbly or anything like that. All right, let me see. This one's being a little stubborn. Let's try this side. Gotta just push these in. These clips are being very stubborn today. I mean, those are in now. Those aren't coming out. Cool. Let's get this other one in. And then those are all of our things that need to be mounted on the plate in terms of that. There we go. So those little posts right there are going to stabilize the space bar. So that's really nice. So, all right, let's get our stabilized keycaps out too. I want to put the clips on. I just want to have all the parts out just so we can lube everything. So we need our space bar. We need our left shift. We need our... Where's the big ass enter? That's my favorite keycap. Give me a second. I'm just going to dump this keycap set out. There's my big ass enter. We got bay on this one. Okay, where's my enter and backspace? That's my plus. It's my backspace. And then I just need to get my other shift. I got to get it from a separate box. So I need to get my... We're having a full right shift on this one. All right, let me grab it really quick. Cool. There's my right shift. Let's see the other one. Want to see which one I prefer. I'll go with that one. Boom. Boom. Looking good, friends. Looking good. Let's put these away. It's my little gold foil. My dongles. I'm back. There we go, friends. All right. I'm going to put my clips on the bottom of these little puppies. So I love that we're doing a big ass enter, because big ass enter is a vibe for sure. Cool. Got that. Let's add my right shift, everybody. Again, those of you who are tuning in, thank you so much, friends. So, doing a really cool Alps build this morning. Okay, I'm going to pull those out. Those aren't tight enough for me, so I'm going to just kind of, there we go. Sorry about that, friends. I'm going to just compress these a little bit. There we go. There we go. Give those a little more of a compression. Same with the big ass enter. Okay, that's not good. I'm gonna see if I can get some different clips for that, because those, the big ass enter is not clipping in. So I want to make sure the clips are good. So I'm gonna see if I can grab a different clip. See if I can grab some of these brown ones. They're all kind of the same. They do the same thing. That's weird. Let's try a black one. Okay, I'll do the black one. Just making sure they're not being as tight as I would want. So, especially the big ass enter being such a big key. Yeah, there we go. Let's make sure those are good. Those are good. Yeah, those are good. Sweet. Alright, we're good. Let me just put these parts back. So we're definitely doing some good stuff. Awesome. Alright, cool. Alright, I think all the parts are installed. Let's start lubing, and then let's start putting these keycaps, these stabilized keycaps on. That's just going to make life a little bit easier. So we'll put our spudger to the side. Keycaps. So again, my methodology when I do this, I usually lube my stabilizers first, and then I install them and solder them onto the PCB. That just makes life a little easier. Alps stabilizers are kind of a pain in the ass. So like I just try to do them first and just get them out of the way, instead of having all the keycaps on and having a little less real estate to work with. So it's just easier for me to just do them first and just get it out of the way. So I'm doing my clips housings right now, where the wires clip in. So essentially with Alps stabilizers, you want to lube anywhere where these wires are going to make contact. So the clips on the piece, on the plate, and then the clips beneath the keycaps are the primary points of contact you want to have lubed. So okay, I got my clips. Let's start putting in our... Actually, before we do that, I want to put in some switches. So we're going to grab 5 of these switches, and then we're going to lube them. Just going to put them on the plate just to make life a little bit easier. Clip everything in. So these are really cool switches. Like Careless told me, these are basically kind of like unicorns. Just how clean these and good condition these switches work, because normally these switches are really clapped. So Careless gave me a really good deal on these switches. So I'm really excited to have these switches in a really special board. Like Careless told me, like he really wants these switches to go in a special board. I feel like the Frog Mini Pesante is special and crazy enough to warrant these switches. Yellow Alps are a little more common, so I'll probably put those in a more common board, whereas this one's not as common. So like these are really going to be I think perfect switches to kind of complement the insanity that is the Pesante. To put really nice switches in, which will be really nice. Let's start off with our right shift over here. Sorry, left shift. I'm not right from left, everybody. Sorry about that. It's all good. Like I said, I'm just a guy. I ain't no professional. I'm just a guy in his man cave who likes messing with keyboards, so. So yeah, what's up, GDC? I'm fine having you back. I just treat this like a podcast. People just kind of listen to what I'm doing. So there is kind of an interesting thing. So, so compared to MX style PCB mount stabs, they're different. So like, as you can kind of see, like these are way more simple of a design compared to Cherry MX. The thing with these stabilizers, you have to lube them, just like Cherry MX, like any stabilizers. There is a simplicity to these stabs. My recommendation is what type of original Alps stabilizers to use. If you're using like original Alps keycaps, I recommend using original Alps pattern. Like use the same stabilizer parts that came from the keyboard you harvested them from. Now there's there's three options with keycaps. So like the original Alps keycaps, like from back in the day. Then there's Taihao. Taihao is a manufacturer based in Taiwan, and they've been producing just electronics and keycaps since the 1960s. And they were actually one of the original Alps keycap manufacturers back in the day. So they actually make new production Alps keycaps, but they use Alps pattern stabilizers. Taihao makes their own stabilizer kits, and I recommend if you're using Taihao keycaps, use their stabilizer kits. There's just kind of different tolerances that are kind of weird with them. So that's what I recommend for those. Now with DCS, they're kind of a hybrid and give you the best of both worlds. I think Cherry MX stabilizers are better than Alps stabilizers. But I mean, there are certain Alps keycaps, like if you're gonna want to go with OG, you gotta use like Alps pattern stabilizers. These are fine. You just have to properly lube them. And that's why I have like the VODs. I kind of show my lubing process. Because like when I get boards, like when I harvest switches or harvest parts, the stabilizers have probably never been lubed in their life, and they're horribly rattly, like way worse than like unlubed Cherry MX stabilizers. They sound horrible. So like you definitely want to lube these. So I use two of my preferred and recommended lube for Alps pattern stabilizers are going to be 205G0. That's just what I recommend. I've had the best success with in lubing these stabilizers. I've tried other lubes and they just don't work as well. So 205G0, I know that's like a lot of people's go-to recommendation on like the Cherry MX site as well too. But they're just their own thing. It took me a little bit of time to figure out how these stabilizers worked, and I just had to do like trial and error. Once I figured out how they work, they were really simple to work with. So I really enjoy working with these stabilizers, and they're fantastic. So yeah, sorry, that's just me rambling at this point, but they're really, really good. They're really good stabilizers. And I mean, just like a little history lesson on Alps. I mean, they were produced by a company called Alps Electric, and Alps Electric produced keyboards and keyboard switches and keyboard parts basically from the 1970s to the early 2000s. Alps Electric is based in Japan, and they're still around. But in the early 2000s, as things in the market changed, Alps Electric sold off their keyboard division. So Alps Electric primarily focuses on like the non-consumer market. So they mainly deal with like enterprise and like industrial electronics. So like server stuff like that, into like big manufacturers. They don't really deal with consumers like you and me anymore. And part of the reason, but during the 80s and 90s and even the 70s, Alps was one of the biggest manufacturers of keyboard switches and keyboard parts. They had they're like IBM, like HP, Apple, like some of the biggest giants of technology in the 80s and 90s were utilizing Alps. Now, Cherry was still there, but they were Cherry's direct competitor in the market. Now Cherry was still there. Like Cherry still had contracts with like IBM, HP, and like many other tech companies, but like Alps was kind of like the go-to for a very long time. Like again, there's a reason like companies like IBM and like Apple and like HP really preferred utilizing Alps switches, which is really interesting. So now as things kind of change, by the time we get to the 90s, one thing about Alps, they're very loud switches. There are two Alps switches that are called dampen tactiles. I have builds with both of them. Alps put rubber dampeners in the sliders to attempt to make the switches a little quieter. They're still freaking loud switches. So these are not quiet switches. So like I tell people, if you want to get into Alps and you want a silent build, look on Cherry MX. Like you're going to have a very loud, old school, clacky sound profile with Alps. That's just kind of the nature of these switches. But in the 90s, and by the time we get to like the late 90s, early 2000s, things are changing. People are moving away from mechanical keyboards in like the mass market. Like these keyboards were tools. They were in schools, they were in hospitals, they were in businesses, they were in government offices. Like these were workhorses of their day for productivity. And people wanted quieter and quieter keyboards to have a more peaceful work environment. So by the time we get to late 90s, early 2000s, people are switching over to membrane keyboards. Membrane keyboards are way cheaper and they're way quieter. And especially if you're like a government, or like, especially if you're having like a government contract, like you don't want to spend a lot of money on your equipment you're using for your employees. So membrane keyboards kind of had the best of both worlds. They were quiet and they were cheap. So by the time we get to the early 2000s, Alps basically kind of realized like being in the keyboard game isn't really worth it. Now that kind of worked in Cherry's benefit because Cherry basically became really the only player in town in terms of good mechanical switches. And as we go to the rest of the 2000s and eventually get into the 2010s, like Cherry basically dominates the market. Now like 99% of the mechanical keyboard market is Cherry MX and its derivatives. So, and again, I love Cherry. I'm not a Cherry hater. I have a massive Cherry MX collection. I mean, if you look at my Instagram page, that's like on my overlay, like you can see my personal Cherry MX collection that's photographed on there. So like I love Cherry MX builds, but I only recently discovered Alps earlier in 2025. So I've talking with Careless, who's kind of one of the experts on converting Alps boards, modern boards to Alps, and he said I kind of became an overnight expert. I really just kind of dove headfirst and just kind of jumped to like my goal is to have one Alps build, like an Alps build for every switch type. So I'm on my way there. I'm missing 2 switch types. I'm missing pine black tactile Alps and brown linear Alps. I mean, I need to get more yellow Alps too eventually, but the 2 Alp switches I'm avoiding, just because they're cost prohibitive, are going to be neon green tactile Alps. Those things are like unicorns. If you find a neon green Alps, are going to run you about $20 to $30 a switch. So if you want a set of neon green Alps to build a board, like a TKL or full size, you're looking about $2,000 to $3,000 in just switches. And then the other type I have no desire to go after are amber linear Alps. Those are really hard to get your hands on. And I think the last one I saw sold was like $7,000 to $8,000 for a board that had them. So those are like the 2 super uber rare Alps. Like you'll be lucky to ever see a build with them in person. The boards that had them are pretty much bought up, and the people who have them are asking just insane amounts of money. So like the time I get my pine black Alps and like my linear brown Alps and get my yellow, my brown Alps, I'll have about 15 or 16 Alps builds, and that'll be one with every major switch type. Which I think is really cool. And then when I go to meets, and also someone who's doing Alps client commissions, I have pretty much, and I also have cases of Alps switch types on hand. I can show you for client commissions. I also have a massive stockpile of Alps switches. I have 12 of these containers that are full of every major switch type. So when I do a build, I have a build built with it, and I fill up one of these containers with about 150 of those switches of that type. And so I have a few thousand Alps switches on hand. So I can, whatever a client wants, I can build it. Just what type of Alp switch someone wants is going to vary is going to depend the price. Usually if you're doing orange tactiles or green linear Alps or the dampened tactiles like white clicky Alps, price will be pretty reasonable. Probably but anywhere between 85 cents to about $2 a switch. Where pricing gets kind of crazy is if you want to do brown Alps. Brown Alps are hyper tactile switches, and they're gonna run you probably about $4 to $5 a switch. And then the blue and amber Alps are $3 to $4 a switch, depending on the condition and whatnot. So I really don't do most of the builds I do. People, unless someone wants to pay the price, I really recommend orange for tactile, green for linear, and clickies. I recommend white Alps, as those are way more affordable than the amber or blue clicky Alps. So there's just a ton of different options people can do. And I had a client, he reached out to me and he did 3 super high-end builds with me. I did him a Frog TKL with orange Alps. I did him a Geon F1 8X V2 with green Alps. And his third build is a JO2 from Prototypist that we're having custom Cerakoted, and that's at my Cerakote guy. It's been there for about a month, and he wanted blue Alps in there. Those are probably my 3 most high-end builds I've done to date. But most of the Alps builds I have people do are going to be green, orange, or white Alps, realistically. I'm doing a client build. I have one more client build that I got to do this week that's going to have ivory dampened tactile Alps, which will be really nice. The user wanted a more kind of deep, more subdued sound instead of the clacky sound profile. So we're going with a palm plate and then those ivory dampened tactile Alps, which will be really nice. So, but yeah, it's a really Alps are just a fun world, and I honestly think everyone should have an Alps build in their collection. I don't think everyone should be insane like me and have over a dozen Alps builds. But yeah, they're definitely fun switches, and I think everyone should have one. I think again, my recommendation for Alps builds for people, all my clients, tray mount 60 or a TKL, or just a 60% in general, or a TKL. I have a Google Doc sheet that I can Google Doc that I can send people that has a list of the boards that we can easily convert to Alps, which is really cool. So that's a really nice thing. So that kind of makes it easy. So it's also really nice if a client, like what I've done for clients, especially like an international client, is if they have a board on hand, like for example, my client in Singapore that I did a build for, they wanted a GeonWorks Frog Mini. They had a GeonWorks Frog Mini. So I told them, I'll just build the internal plate and PCB and switch assembly, and then that's what I'll mail you, and then you just drop it into your case, which is really nice. So that's a really kind of cool thing that just to kind of bring shipping costs down, especially for like international clients. So I've had some clients from in other parts of the world reach out. Like I've done 2 builds for people up in Canada. I've done the Singapore client. I've had a client. I've had a couple clients in Europe. I know I have GDC. I know you're located in Ireland. I had someone in England, and then I also had someone in Russia reach out. So I tell people like I'm happy to do. I'm based here in Los Angeles, here in the United States. But I always tell people like if you're an international client, I will happily do Alps stuff for people who are overseas. I just ask that as part of the fee I charge for like parts and my commission fee, I just ask that you cover shipping when I ship the stuff back to you. I know GDC, we're kind of working out some kind of special deal. You're hooking me up with some cool Alps stuff, and I'm really excited. Like when you reached out and said like, hey, like you have something I genuinely would want to add to my Alps collection, which is going to be freaking awesome. So I can't tell you how excited I am to be able to do that. So it's really cool. So I'm really excited with some of the Alps projects we're doing. But like I said, I've had a bunch of people like on Reddit and Discord who haven't officially become clients, but they're really interested. So like I've been posting on like Reddit and Discord, and of course I have like my VODs and things like that. So like I really just want to kind of put the word out there. Like Alps is cool. Yeah, dude. I hope it goes GDC. Let's see. I mean, I hope it all works out, man. I know kind of right now, I mean, I'm not in a rush to do it because I know right now the United States currently isn't accepting packages from Europe right now just because of the whole ridiculous political situation we're dealing with tariffs and just our government. So I think I think our U.S. Postal Service and shippers to the United States have basically said they're figuring out logistics with tariffs. And once they have all that like paperwork and logistics figured out, they'll then start resuming shipments from Europe over to the United States. I know because I order stuff from like a Blotsky and like Prototypist from time to time, and they said they're waiting to hear word from the shippers to figure out the logistics. So I know we may be waiting a little bit, but again, like I also tell people with Alps builds, it very much takes time to do Alps. Like my personal JO2 took like 2 months to do, like because I had to source switches, I had to restore them, I had to source parts, I had to get it Cerakoted. So like and certain with the client builds, I tell them this may take like anywhere from 4 weeks to 2 months. Like my JO2 client, like it's like the Cerakote takes about a month to do because my Cerakote guy has like a queue of other clients he has to do, so he's slotting me into his schedule. And Cerakote is an art, and if the coating comes out wrong, he has to sandblast it down and do it again. So I just tell people with the Alps commissions, just be patient. Like this isn't like Cherry MX where like you can get the build done in an evening. Alps builds very much take their time. And I also tell people like the client builds that I do, every Alps build is different. Every one is basically like hand fitted and like a one of one. Even my personal builds, like every single one is different. There's different things I have to do with adjustments to make sure that everything fits together and everything works together. And I think that's what is so intimidating about Alps to so many people. That's why a lot of people really don't pull the trigger on Alps because there's just a lot of work that goes into them. I mean, in terms of Alps switches, I recommend going OG original Alps switches from like the 80s and 90s. Or you could do like new production switches from Matthias. Now, cool thing about Matthias, they're based in Canada. And when Alps shut down and sold off their keyboard division in the early 2000s, Matthias is the company that bought it. So they bought the tooling and they bought the rights to Alps switches. So Matthias actually still produces new production Alps switches. They have a linear, they have a tactile, and they have a clicky. I haven't done builds with them yet. I'm waiting for a client to do. I don't have a desire to build with them because I just prefer the OG stuff. But if I had a client reach out and said like, "Hey, I want Matthias," I'm not going to say no. I will always build what the client wants when they reach out, and if that means more cost or just a longer like lead time, cool. I'm absolutely happy to get that done for the client. So that's really cool. So, but it's really good. So like I just tell people like. Always try to go with OG Alps with the prop, but I think what is so intimidating, you have to be familiar with like soldering and desoldering, because especially if you're going to convert like a modern day board to Alps, solder is the only way to go. There is no hot swaps. You have to have like the proper like soldering and desoldering equipment to do it. So I like have a desolder gun. I have a good soldering iron set up. You're going to kind of see that on stream today. So that's just something you do want to be aware of, is you have to be comfortable and experienced with that. That's just kind of the thing I tell people. So let me just get we're going to install my favorite keycap of all time, the big ass enter. So, and a funny thing too, folks, about these old school enters, that is the official name. It is called the big ass enter. So you look on like GMK's website or like keycap manufacturers, that is the official name, big ass enter, or BAE or Bay. So it's a great, I think it is the greatest name for a keycap. So it's a little finicky to get it mounted. So, clip came undone. Oops, give me a second. Yeah, these big ass enters are kind of finicky. So give me a second. I gotta add some lube. My finger wipes my lube off. No. So really good time, everybody. But yeah, I've been in the hobby for about 2 years. I only recently started like doing the streaming on Twitch and like social media stuff. Just because people were telling me what I was building like for myself and like my personal collection was really interesting. And like I started only ever got into the commission game when people started asking questions about Alps. And I had a friend who was up in Montreal who really wanted to do an Alps build, and he wasn't comfortable building it himself. So I said, hey dude, just pay. I'll give you a price breakdown for parts and I'll build it for you. And that's what we did. So that was really cool. I'm just seeing how my... Just making sure my big S enter is good. So yeah, so the commission started off with like a friend and just kind of scrolling through Reddit and Discord and seeing if people were wanting Alps. And when I would show my Alps builds off on like Reddit and Discord, like I would say like, hey, if you're interested in one, like reach out to me and like we can definitely work something out. So yeah, I have availability in my Alps build commission calendar. So like again, if anyone watching is interested in the build, or you know someone, or heck, you just want a price quote to kind of know like, hey, what am I getting myself into? Like absolutely feel free to reach out. Like again, all my like contact info is up on my overlay. So that big ass enter works. Good times. So we're gonna do my left shift. We've got my clips lubed up. So yeah, so like Alps have definitely been a journey, and I absolutely love it. So I'm really excited for just stuff and whatnot. So yeah, a lot of good stuff. But I'm gonna be at Keyb Life in Los Angeles. That's one of the biggest keyboard meetups here in the United States. So if you're based in like Southern California, like the western part of the United States, definitely try and go to Keyb Life. It's going to be September 6th up in Pasadena, California, just outside Los Angeles, and it's going to be awesome. Like, I'll be there. I'm going to bring like 12 Alps builds to have on display, so people will be able to like try my Alps builds out. I'll also have switches on display, so people can like pick the boards up, they can type on them. And most people who are going to go, I'm probably going to be the only guy with Alps there, which is going to be awesome. But it'll be nice showcasing the builds. And also, if someone is interested in doing a client commission, like commissioning me or getting on my client calendar, absolutely. So it'll be really nice. So just making sure those sound fantastic. Cool. All right, now the space bar. Alps space bars are kind of a pain in the ass. So let's see how this goes. All right, let me I always forget how the wire orientation goes, so let me just do this really quick, just make sure. Yeah, there we go, we got it right. Okay, cool. I always forget. Alps space bars are kind of a pain in the ass, so just FYI. If you're gonna do your own Alps build, just FYI, space bars suck. But they work. Once they're in, they're in. That's also my recommendation too. Once you get an Alps build assembled, just kind of leave it and don't take the stabilizers. If you're gonna do an Alps build with Alps pattern stabilizers, lube your stabilizers, install your keycaps, and just never take them off. That's just my recommendation. They're just kind of a massive pain in the ass. So it's just, yeah, you just kind of think about them. I will have to remove that big ass enter when we install this in the case, because my screw points are under the damn big ass enter. And I'll kind of show you why they're a pain in the ass. You'll see later in the build stream why they're a pain in the ass. But space bars are really finicky. But once they're on, they're fantastic. It's just installing them kind of sucks. So we're just lubing these stabilizing posts, and then we'll lube our clips, and then we'll get our wire lubed up. So hey, we've been on her for like, give me a second. little thingy in the bottom I want to clear out so I can see my settings and whatnot. There we go. I've been here for about 45 minutes, everybody. It's okay. Hey, I'm taking my time. We're enjoying the stream. This is a fun build, so. Cool. So, really, really cool builds, but I'm really excited to show you guys everything at Cube Life. Again, one of my clients who I did build a build for, he's actually based here in Los Angeles. So he'll be at Cube Life, and he said he's going to bring his Alps build that I built for him and display it. So that's going to be really cool. So I'm really excited to have some folks just be able to showcase the work I've done, which will be really cool. So I'm really excited. So I enjoy the commissions, and I enjoy being able to like share the love of Alps with people. And the people I've sent the builds to are really happy with the builds they've gotten, which is really nice. So that's just really nice. Like my client in Singapore absolutely loved his board. I mean, it took about 2 weeks for the board to get to him just because it's shipping all the way across the world. But yeah, it was really cool just kind of hearing his reaction and whatnot. And I love, again, just checking in with the clients after the boards have been delivered to see how they like the boards. So yeah, it's a lot of good time. So definitely if you want to get into Alps, like definitely feel free to reach out. Or if you want to do, if you're interested in trying to do Alps yourself, like you can still please reach out to me and I can give you any advice and recommendations or help you on any questions you have with trying to build it yourself. Again, I just know like not everyone is comfortable doing builds like this themselves. So that's why, again, like I came up with the commission service just to kind of help fill a need that I noticed that people were interested in doing. I know there was people had a desire for Alps. Okay, that's in. Let me just put a little bit more lube on the bottom with the wire. And we're good. Awesome. All right, friends. We are done with our lubing of our stabilizers. So, good times, everybody. So, and again, the VOD of this stream will be up on my YouTube channel later today. So, so you guys will be, if you want to watch the whole thing and learn about Alps, like I post all my Alps build VODs and just any also like personal builds that I build. Like also I've done some Cherry MX builds too. I got some cool Cherry MX builds coming in. I got some Topre stuff we'll be building on stream too. So those sound really nice. These are lubed. So these are what Alps stabilizers should sound like lubed. So, really good. Damn it. My big ass enter was not installed correctly. Give me a second. I knew it didn't feel right. Okay, give me a second. We gotta get the lube out again. So I'll show you. Now you get to see why Alps stabilizers are a pain in the ass. So, alright, let me get these. I gotta add some more lube to this. So let me demonstrate. That's also by the fun part of doing this on stream. Any mess ups or errors we do, you get to see me fix them. So that's really fun. So let me get this. Let me just re-add some lube here just to make sure we're not all rattly. So big S enter is also just one of the more finicky keys we got to do. So, but it is a sick keycap. I mean, I recommend big ass enters. I have 3 of my personal Alps builds have big ass enters, and it's just a vibe. It very much is a vibe, everybody. So, again, my folks who are watching, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It is a fun time. But like I said, if you don't have the time to watch the whole stream, again, I have my VODs, so you can kind of scrub through and figure out what parts of the stream you are interested in learning about in terms of Alps building and just keyboard building in general. So there we go. All right. Got it. This is going to be fun. So we're going to... This is going to be a massive pain in the ass. Give me a second. Clips are in. There we go. Got it. Alright, big ass enter is installed properly. I'm going to have to remove it later on in the stream, which is going to be freaking delightful. So, alright, so we're done with our lube. I want to just wipe off some lube. on the space bar really quick if there's any like extra lube on here. Just want to wipe it off. Just get my hands wiped off, and we are good. We got our stabilized keycaps on, so there we go. That's pretty nice. So. So, loving it. So, love this board. So, I'm really excited. So, all right, let's line everything up with the PCB, and then let's solder it in. And then we'll test the switches. So, I'll kind of show you my methodology for building Alps. Okay, let's just flip it over, and let's line everything up. Perfect. All right, so we got that, which is pretty good. So, all right, let's get my soldering iron fired up. Let's get my temperature dialed in. Oh my God, it's way too hot. There we go, 400 degrees Celsius. Let's get my solder vent going. And then while that's warming up, let's get my solder wick going. Alright, so we're warming up, everybody, so let's get this going. So this little vent sucks up the solder fumes. You don't want to be breathing. If you're soldering, make sure you're in a well-ventilated space or you get one of these. Just you don't want to be breathing in those fumes. That's not good. Take care of your lungs, everybody. Alright, we are warmed up. Let's get this going. Alright, so let's get our spacebar soldered in. Get our cool. All right, those are in. I just want to make sure they're like properly seated. Perfect. Make sure everything is seated properly. Cool. And then this one. Perfect. All right, let's now properly solder them in. Those are good. Cool. All right, so those 5 are in. Let's put my solder stuff to the side. So let's just do a little test on how these are mounted. Perfect. All right, so I need to use my JST port here to test. So it's testing is kind of weird on this one today. Actually, I'm gonna unplug the JST. I'm gonna unmount the JST connector just to make testing in life a little bit easier. So let's pull this JST connector out, just so I'm not moving this ridiculously heavy case back and forth. Because this case is, again, this thing weighs like, I think, about 3.5 kilograms, about 8 to 10 pounds. So this thing is crazy. So, oh my god, it's awesome, but it's insane. Okay, let's get my JST right here. Let's plug my JST port in there just so we can test this PCB. So, all right, there we go. Let's put my tools over here away as we're not using these till later on in the build. All right, so let's get my switch tester out, and I just want to make sure this all works. Okay, let's open up VIA. All right, so everything looks programmed, so let's do a test. Backspace is good. Enter is great. Right shift, awesome. Spacebar. Left shift. All right, we're good, friends. So we are fantastic. We're money. All right, so let's take off this JST connector, and then we'll install some other keycaps and switches. Let me just put my JST up and over to the side in a safe place. So let's install some additional switches. So let's put in some other ones just around the perimeter just to make life a little bit easier. Awesome. Like Carol has said, these were in really, really good condition. So we shouldn't have any dead switches on this one today or have to do any big troubleshooting, but we'll still verify everything. But yeah, these switches look really good. So these are really awesome switches. Oh yeah. So let's see that, and then we'll do our caps lock, our tab, and then our escape. So I like doing those. We're going to solder those in, and then we're going to figure out our other ones. So that's going to be perfect. All right, friends. Let's get those soldered in, and then we'll do a test. All right, let's solder these puppies in. Give me a second. You know, I like doing these ones around the perimeter because it just makes life a little bit easier as we kind of solder in and test everything. Cool. All right, that one's good. We're just going to do the bottom row, and then we'll be solid. Perfect. Got 3 more, and then we'll test these. Perfect. Alright, almost there, friends. Cool. Alright, let's put that to the side. Alright, so got some switches installed. Got our bottom row, and this is our side ones right here. So I just want to check, and then we'll do our numbers and then our alpha cluster. All right, let's get VIA open again because we are VIA PCB on this one. Oh, it would help if I plugged it in. Forgot, this is a full JST because I permanently removed the USB-C port. So it'll fit in the case. So let's plug her in. There we go. Let's get her going. VIA. Still good. All right, so. Perfect. We are good. Switches work. So that's good. So I don't think we're going to deal with any dead switches. These were in excellent condition. So that's good. So I think we're just going to go for it and put all the rest of the switches in. Because I think we're having a very good success rate. If there are switches that need new switch plates, we'll kind of go through and take care of those. Yeah, but these switches look really, really nice. So we're going to close VIA. Oh. Okay, so yeah, so that GDC, that's a really good point. So the little legs that you saw that stick through the PCB that you solder, they are, I'd say, like half a millimeter to like a millimeter longer than Cherry MX. Here's what I personally do. I don't trim down the pins. What I do is I put either a layer of like painter's tape on like the bottom of the case, or I put foam. So like on the bottom of my Pesante here, I cut this piece of foam, and this isn't to tune sound. This is literally just to prevent the switches from shorting. So that is something that you'll see. So that I personally don't trim the pins. I just put like a little layer of foam on the bottom of the case, or I put a layer of like masking tape on the bottom of the case. But yeah, that is a concern in certain modern cases, just because these pins are slightly longer. And one thing with Alps, you really don't want to put foam in these things, not to tune sound. Again, really the only reason you would put foam in like the bottom of the case is to prevent shorting. So, because again, most of the really cool builds you're going to want to do is like a metal case. So, that's just something to kind of be aware of. So, we're just kind of doing that. So, we're putting them in and getting them taken care of. So, that'll be cool. So, yeah, we're going to put the rest of these switches in, and then we're going to get this beauty installed. So, I think we're just going to put all the rest of these switches in, and then we're just going to kind of go for it. So, this is a much more straightforward build than last night's or the night before. So that's really good. So no, it's a good time. Like again, like Alps are fun. Then there's definitely hand fitting and stuff you got to do with these builds. So yeah, these SKCL creams, I definitely want to get more of these. I already like the feel of them. So I'm definitely going to see if I can track down another one of the laptops these things come in. All right. Perfect. All right. Yeah, almost all the switches are installed. Okay, cool. I think that's done with switches. Well, there we go. There are linear Alps. Look at those. So these are Alps SKCL creams. So these are, again, a little later in Alps' production run, but they are a little bit of a rarer and more expensive switch. So really, really cool. And they only really are found in old laptops from like the early 90s. So really beautiful switches. I really love the sound of them. I may do a little bit of tuning on this right shift. Still hearing a little bit of rattling. So we'll kind of see how that one goes. Yeah, a little rattle. So we'll definitely probably tune that one a little later. But yeah, we're looking good, everybody. So yeah, let's get fire up the soldering iron. Let's solder the rest of these switches on, and then we'll just do testing. Let's fire that up. Let's get the soldering wand over here. Let's get some solder line, and we're gonna go. All right, we're just gonna go to the races and solder this. So this should be really quick. Should probably take about 5-10 minutes. So I'm pretty quick at soldering. Yeah, so we're doing the number row right now. And then we'll move on to our main alpha cluster. Cool. That one is looking good. So we got our numbers done. So let's move on to our next alpha row. I've been on there for a little over an hour, so that's pretty good. Cool. All right, 2 more rows, folks, and then we should pretty much be almost done with this build. So it's coming along. Cool. Almost done with this 3rd row. We'll move on to the last alpha row. Perfect. So, almost there, friends. One more row, and then we'll do some testing. Cool. Like 4 more switches, friends. All right. We are good. Soldered up. All right. Let's turn off my soldering iron. I think we're going to be done with soldering, so let's wrap up the solder wick. All right, friends, let's take a look at these. Well, there's all of our solder joints in this awesome little PCB. So yeah, these have a really nice feel. So I'm really excited for this. So let's get that JST. Sorry, friends, I gotta grab it up on my shelf up here. So let's connect that, and then we'll connect our USB, connect it to USB-C. All right, friends, let's do that. Let's connect our USB-C port. There we go. Let's go into VIA, and then let's work on our programming. All right. Come on, VIA. Are you hating me today? Give me a second. There we go. Cool. All right, friends. Let's do a test. Just testing all the switches. So far, so good. All right, everything works on this PCB, so we're good. All right, so I'm gonna pull my JST out. So this thing works 100%, which is awesome. So I'm gonna X out of VIA, and we're done with that. So there's our assembly. I wanna just check something really quick. Yeah, we're fine, cool. I wanna put a little bit of lube on my my right shift stabilizer wire on the bottom here, because it's just being a little rattly. So I'm just gonna. All right, that's a lot better. Perfect. All right. Just wanted to just tune that stabilizer really quick. We're going to leave the 205G0 out because we're going to have to take off the big ass enter. So let's do that. I want to grab my screws that we're going to use. Yeah, I'm going to see. So I'm going to try something really quick. Give me a second. I want to check my screw box because I want to see if we can do something a little bit better. want to try something. Just give me a second. I want to see if these screws will fit. Okay, we're going to use these. We're going to use better screws because I don't like the ones that came with it. 4 screws are going to hold us down. Let's put these ones away. Cool. Let's get our tools that we're going to need. So let me get my tweezers for these and then also my bit to screw this puppy in. All right, let's put those away. All right. So first off, the first thing is first order of business is we have to install our JST. So that's what we're going to do first. Let's put the PCB to the side. Let's get our massive case. Let's get our 2 screws and let's put in our JST connector. So that's going to be our first thing. So really cool build from Geon. Let's get our other screw. Perfect. So that's in. Let's get my little piece of bottom foam that I've created. Again, I literally just cut this. This was foam that was included in the box. So again, this is not to tune sound or anything like that. It's literally just to keep the pins from shorting. So again, GDC, you mentioned that. So this is my kind of solution. Or I could have done masking tape. I just do that. That just keeps everything nice and that keeps everything from shorting. So the next thing we're going to do before we move on to the case is I want to take off my big ass enter. We're going to have to re-lube it and everything because we have to, my screw points are underneath my big ass enter. So we're going to take this off and it's going to be an absolute delight having to reinstall the big ass enter in a few minutes. But that's just kind of what we got to do. There's a little piece of lube right there that got stuck. I don't want to get that. So yeah, fun. But yeah, we'll re-lube the big ass enter in a few minutes, but we got to take it off. Let's put our JST connector in. And then we're going to drop the assembly in. Cool. Let's put it up here. All right, friends, let's get our screws in here, and then we're going to get everything going. All right, let's get our screws in here. And then we'll get everything kind of lined up for the most part. So we got that caught in. Let's do our other side ones. We got one more screw to hold this puppy down. Okay, we're going tray mount. This also supports gummy O-ring. Ah, crap. Give me a second. I got that screw. These are always finicky. Hold up. Give me a second. That screw got stuck. Dang it. I don't need that. Crap, we may have to pull this out to get that screw, damn. Not looking forward to this. Fine, I'll do that one first next time. It's okay, we want to do this right. This is a personal build. This is the same methodology I would do for a client build, so just... that's the fun of doing it on stream. Everybody get to see all my mistakes and everything and all the fun parts of these builds. Parts of these builds that are so much fun. Oh, I got like stuck down there. let's put that one in first. Cool, got that one. Cool. Just want to make sure they're caught in there. Sweet. Now we can put in our last two. And then we just want to line up everything. Okay, one more screw, everybody, and then we're gonna get this. We'll put that. We'll line everything up, and then we'll get the big ass center. Oh crap. Here we go. Got it. All right, I want to get a couple of keycaps and just align everything. So I want to get my corners. So I want to get some keycaps and just figure out the corners. I'll get my control keys. I want to find my escape really quick, so give me a second. Perfect. We just want to make sure everything is lined up. And Alt. Perfect. Cool. All right, we are lined up, everybody. We're installed. So let's put the big ass enter back in, because that's going to be kind of the finicky / frustrating part. So let me get some 205G0. Now, the way I kind of do it, this is mounted the way I want it, and I don't plan to take this out again. So I think before we do that, I want to do a test of everything again in VIA before we kind of finalize everything. So let's go into VIA. Okay, VIA's being stupid. Let me try it again. We can go into, there we go. Everything's popping up. Okay, we're good. Everything works. So let's make this permanently, well, like just, I want it to be one and done. So when this thing gets put back together, I'm not going to take it apart again for a very long time. All right, got that portion. Let's lube the wire. And then our clips as well. So let's put our clip, get our clip lube down here. Cool. That's good. And then let's do our wire right here. All right, let's get that in. via really quick. There we go, friends. We're almost there. It's got to install pretty much my last hurdle is getting this big ass enter installed. And you're going to kind of see why installing these stabilizers is kind of a pain in the ass. But I do like it, so. I'm just a glutton for punishment. So, alright friends, let's get this in. Cool. Big ass enter is installed. Lubed up. Sounds good. Alright, cool. Get to see that little fun interaction, everybody. So, alright, home stretch, everybody. So let's just install our keycaps now. And we're pretty much good to go. So let me move my little work mat since we're kind of done like building stuff. And there we go. So that looks really nice. I'm gonna kind of just angle the camera down a little bit. Just give me a second. There we go. Look at that. So let's get our keycaps on and we'll start installing them. So our tab. Let's just kind of go through. We got our W. And we're not using an F row on this keyboard. So keycat, oh my gosh, that is awesome. And we're just putting keys we're not using over here because this is for proper full size. We're just using the 60% cluster. So caps lock. Not using that, not using that. Using that. Six. Yeah, it's starting to look like a cool keyboard, everybody. And then for these ones, we got to pull it. There's a couple of switches for our Windows key that we're going to put in. So just give me a second, friends. I got to search for them in this case. These are my kind of spare FK2001 caps. So I know they're gray, so we just got to find. There's one. Alright, so there should be one more. I gotta find it. There we go. Alright, we are good. Let's push this set back. Alright, friends. That is a Frog Mini Pesante. Look at that, friends. So that looks sick. Let me get my other Frog so you can kind of see all three Frog Minis together. So I got the whole Frog Mini family right here. So we got the, while we're on it here, and we got the Ligera. Look at that. So, friends, we have all, I can tell you, I don't know if you know I'm a fan of the GeonWorks Frog line, so you can see that. So, right here we have the GeonWorks Frog Mini. This is built with Salmon Alps and Taihao keycaps. We have the Frog Mini Ligera built with green linear Alps with OG Macintosh keycaps. Here are the orange Alps. I'm sorry, Salmon Alps. Love Salmon Alps. And then our Frog Mini Pesante. Oh my god, that's awesome. So there we go, friends. So I'm going to move my two frogs out of the way. And I want to do a quick little sound test, and then we'll get on out of here, friends. So let's bring this arm down. Here is my board, folks. We're going to do a sound test. So these are Alps SKCL Creams. These have a 70-gram spring actuation force. That is awesome, everybody. So I'm going to put my microphone back up. Hold up, friends. There we go, friends. So there we go, everybody. So that is our Frog Mini Pesante. This thing is absolutely insane. So kind of flip it around. This thing weighs like 10 pounds or like three and a half kilograms for our friends who actually use proper measurement units. So this is really cool. I want to plug it into VIA just right before we get out of here. And I just want to do one last test with the keycaps. And then we're pretty much done, everybody. This came out super, super sick. Let me just get VIA fired up. There we go. Everything looks good. Let's just do one last test. Perfect. And then our macros. Perfect. Everything is good, everybody. So we're pretty much good to go. So for those of you who tuned in, thank you so much. Be on the lookout on my social media page, on my Instagram, and then also Reddit and Discord. Just kind of see pictures of this board. I'm going to clean up and then do some proper pictures of this board. So, all right, everybody. Have a great morning, and thank you for tuning in, everybody.